He's on assignment. Matt Schick filling in. Spent some quality time away from his new dog. 844-SAY-ACCN is the number. That's 844-SAY-ACCN. Appreciate Tasir Mack, wide receiver from Pittsburgh, who joined us in the opening hour. But right now we are joined by the head football coach at the University of Virginia, Bronco Mendenhall. Coach, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. How are you guys?
We are great. Man, look at the outfit right here. Let me just ask.
Styling and profiling.
You know, I'm always curious what we're going to get from players and coaches. How would you describe that combo that you've got sporting here this early Wednesday morning?
Well, I'm sporting a long sleeve workout sweatshirt or t-shirt, which is my favorite. But then the only other thing that was clean in my locker was this Nike vented vest with this extra kind of flap with the hood that I'm always kind of pulling down. So, yeah, there you have it.
It's all about layers, Coach. Apparently, right?
It's very good. We'll hopefully get some. Disappointed we don't have any of those here. I'd like to take one home.
I will say we just had Tasir Mack on, Coach, and we were talking about the gloves, and so we're kind of on an equipment binge this morning. We need to get some of those UVA gloves down here, or anything else you're in the mood for.
Yeah, so I'm glad to trade this vest for you anytime I see it, and I won't take anything in return. I'll just transfer that to you, and then we'll throw in the gloves as like a bundle, like a present bundle for you.
Very good. I'll take the bundled package with the gloves and the throw into the vest. Bronco Mendenhall joining us here. So, look, the game against Notre Dame started off great. Went toe-to-toe with them. Second half was certainly a different story. What was the biggest thing that you learned about your team and where this program is at after a good test against the Irish?
Yeah, I love the learning that comes from the right kind of teams on the road to see where your program is. We played really well for a half, and everything went according to script, including an onside kick. To start the second half, we knew we had to steal a possession. Ultimately, our inability to run the game increased their pressure on the quarterback. Our protection didn't hold and didn't hold frequently. That led to then turnovers, 4 in the second half, which no way do you beat a good team on the road with that number of turnovers. So we've got to shore up our protection. We've got to shore up our ball security. We have to add some run game to what we're currently doing if we want to win the Coastal and if we want to have the season we want to have.
Coach, I know that you've discussed increasing the run game in the second half of this season. Does the open date come at a good time? Because I've always found that guys are like ready to, hey, I come off a loss, I want to go play immediately. But does it come at a good time for you to kind of take inventory and kind of reboot?
You know, most of the time the coaches, you have to spin your bye any way that makes sense just for the sound bites that come with it. In this particular case, we have the perfect bye. So 5 weeks we've already played. And then we have 5 straight Coastal games in a row, coming off of a game that we have some improvements that we need to make. And so the past 2 days of self-study has been so enlightening and timely. It's giving our team a little bit of a time to rest, and then we reframe and regroup and restart for a Friday night game next week. And so it just is, in this one case, I can sincerely and authentically say I really like where our bye is.
When you talk about what you just said, the self-study, is that something that you just don't get enough time to do on a week-to-week basis when you're game planning for an opponent?
That's exactly right. We have a process, and I'm sure everyone else does as well, where there's self-study that happens every single week. Rarely do you get 2 full unbroken days or uninterrupted days to do nothing but that. And you can go deeper, and you can really tease out and ask questions with the time you have, more significant questions that get to the root of the numbers. Normally during the season, you can get to the numbers, but it's really hard to do the studies based on the questions you have to get deep enough to really get to the origin, which until you get to the origin, it's hard to fix it. And so, man, I really like the 2 days we've had.
So, Bronco, take us into a meeting room here this week. What's one thing that you've discussed that you said, you know what, that's something that I wasn't aware of, or that number, here's the root cause of that number? Give us an example of that.
Well, so for instance, right, leadership is so much about asking the right questions. And if you can ask the right questions, then the studies can be generated from those questions. And so, for instance, let's just say if we talk about protection or the offensive front and the number of sacks we had, well, is there a particular player and what's the vulnerability of that player and what type of moves possibly are beating him, and then what might we do to counter it? And so while those things are easily to say, yeah, we're giving up so many sacks or we're getting so many sacks, possibly then looking it's being caused by or the driving force is, and then that leads to a whole different story, and possibly it's not just the technical part of an offensive front, possibly it's a route concept that just simply doesn't work, and that's requiring our quarterback to get hit because he's standing in extra.
Interesting, yeah. So it's not necessarily, hey, we're not blocking this play the right way. We're not getting the protection for Perkins. It's, look, he couldn't make the throw. He had decent protection. The sack numbers tell you one thing, but the route and where he's running and the lack of him getting open tells us something else, and we need to fix that end of it.
So, and that's the thing that, and it possibly not only is varied route concepts, possibly it's one route concept and done repeatedly where over the past or a number of years, history has said it might work very, very well. For whatever reason, maybe this year it's not working, and that could be personnel driven, it could be coaching emphasis, it could be a number of things. But the clarity comes, or the instant analysis is the protection, but possibly the root driver is that concept just simply doesn't work for this team this year, and needs to be eliminated.
Coach, my youngest daughter, Emerson, is a two-time black belt, and she acquired her second black belt when she was about 15. And I noticed that you kind of went into martial arts a little bit in terms of T-shirts and the colors that you wear. And I couldn't help but notice, and one of the reasons I answered the question about what you've got on today, whites and grays aren't necessarily the go-to at the University of Virginia. So would you like to expand upon that?
Well, the head coach just kind of gets whatever is left over. So
Whatever's clean.
Whatever no one else wants, then that's kind of what's in my locker. I love the development of young people. It's my absolute passion. I really just do it through the game of football. But what brings me fulfillment is to see people grow and progress. And one of the best ways to do that is through transparency. And so much like the martial arts, when you enter a dojo or you begin, you're given all white. Eventually, when you test and demonstrate competencies, you get a different color belt. You don't get that just by how long you've been a member of that particular place. You get it by demonstrated competencies. So our players develop and they wear, the color gear they wear is earned by the different testing metrics that they have over time. Not only do they know where they stand, but everyone else on the team knows where they stand in relation to what our goals are. And I think it's very effective.
I love, one thing I always enjoy about talking to you, Bronco, is just, like you said, your transparency, your honesty, not necessarily sugarcoating anything, telling it like it is. About 15 months ago, we were chatting at ACC Media Day, and I asked you about your comment about, the 27 ACC caliber football players, and that comment really took on a life of its own. But you were just giving your honest assessment of where the program is at. Now, 15 months later, how would you assess this program, this team, this roster right now?
I think we're a work in progress. We're growing, we're progressing, we're developing, we're learning. And so the numbers really tell the story. And 2 wins our first year, then 6, then 8, and a 4-1 start in year 4. It's a steep and fast ascent, but it's happening systematically with no corners being cut. And so I think we're demonstrating really strong and really fast and really sustainable progress to this point. We all know that, man, so much can happen and it can turn so quickly. But the reality is, back to the development scheme or system that we have in our colors, the colors actually represent being an average group of 5 player or a Power 5 player or an all ACC player. And so any of my remarks is nothing new to the players because they're wearing the color and they know what the color means. And that's the one they've earned. So this isn't anything detrimental or discouraging to my players. It's simply a matter-of-fact assessment of today. How many players do we have through their training, through their strength, through their conditioning, and really through their performance that could help us win the ACC championship? And again, the hope is and the drive is that their work ethic has them change colors, right? And then qualify for that group. And we're looking to build that number every year.
Where did the breaking of the rock come from and giving out the pieces to the players? Talk about the whole concept of where in the world did you derive that idea?
Yeah, I wish I could take credit for it. We hired a new strength coach, Sean Griswold. He came from Arizona State last year, and he brought that tradition with him. And so it's been a really nice symbolic way to kind of capture and center your celebration in the locker room. And there's a closing to that particular game with this highlighted noise and stuff smashing and being thrown around. And then there's tangible things for the players to take home with them to remind them of all the hard work they put in and great memories for them. So it came from Sean Griswold, and it really has taken on a life of its own. And when I come in the locker room after the game, the players are already yelling out who they want to break the rock. That means who they thought was the most impactful player for our game. And it's interesting. I'm kind of in the middle of an election. I'm listening to what they think, and then a lot of times I have to cast the final vote. And there's just a great celebration.
That's cool. The buy-in there is obvious there at Virginia. You've got a off week obviously coming up in a week from Friday. You're going to be taking on Miami. What does an off week look like for you, at least on Saturday when there's games going on? Are you watching? Is it family time? What do you do?
Well, so it's different every year. But what will happen this year, so we'll practice a couple days this week. I really thought our players needed more time to recover, but for me as a coach, so I live on 30 acres. My kids are into team roping, as am I, and so I'll be riding horses every night. We have an arena right there, right next to my house. And then with that comes all the ranch work. So I have a jackhammer that I'll be using this evening all the way till dark. I've got wheelbarrows of gravel to unload. I've got bush hogging to do. We had a storm, and so I have chainsaw work to do with downed trees. And then for my faith, there's what's called General Conference, which is biannually, and that's shown on television. And so in between working on the farm, I'll be watching the services on TV.
Name like Bronco, that's what you do. I mean,
what options do you have? You got to coach football or be in rodeo. You got to know how to work power tools. Otherwise, you better change your name.
Coach, I highly suggest the black UVA sweatshirt for all this work tonight. All right, the black. Go black tonight.
Black. I like that idea.
You got it. Listen, we appreciate your time. Enjoy the quote-unquote downtime, even though you just answered that question. And we'll be seeing you down the road.
Thanks, Bronco.
Okay, see you. Bye.
Bronco Mendenhall, head football, great job he's done in Charlottesville.
Look, when he took that job, there were many folks saying, you don't know the area. What are you doing? Why would you leave BYU where, you got something established there? It's pretty obvious he knows what he's doing. And he's a quick study, and he's got a culture established there and a ton of buy-in at UVA. It's pretty cool to watch.
And on top of that, #1, men's and women's soccer, national championship with men's basketball, national championship with lacrosse, and they're red hot in football. Good times in Charlottesville.
Vibe on the campus certainly helps everybody.
No doubt about that. We come back, little conference cuts. We always love having fun with this. Manny Diaz, Jeff Collins, David Cutcliffe, Mac Brown, a little bit of everything comes your way next right here. Packer and Durham. Matt Schick filling in today, doing a great job. Obi's still looking for Dad when he gets home, though. You got the phone number at 844-SAY-ACCN if you want to jump on board. Packer and Durham right here on the ACC Network.